open, and then I forget.
I know that would not be fun to do the whole thing and then
Yeah.
be like, we promise we did it. Look at all that.
Yeah. Okay, so our discussion essentially is just based on the analysis that we did individually. Just those 4 questions from our own personal analysis. So the first question is, what made Noodles and Company an attractive opportunity for Aaron Kennedy in 1995? Anybody have any specific thoughts on that?
I can start. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something, Nathan?
No, no, go right ahead.
Okay, I was just going to say, I liked reading the case how it talked about that Aaron realized that starting this company would be good because he wanted to be able to reach multiple like types of food. So it talks about how he like has Asian, Mediterranean, American. So I think he saw that as a good opportunity to be able to say, hey, you can come to one place and you can get multiple different kinds of food, which is cool because sometimes you go out to eat with somebody and they're like, oh, I want this type of food and you want a different kind. So I think it was good because he's like, oh, I can reach many people and get kind of a different, like a more of a variety out there, like cultural variety. And I think he thought it would be good just because it can be like a quick way to get a pretty good food, like higher quality food, but quickly. So I think that's what he kind of realized when starting it.
Yeah, in addition to that, they mentioned in the case that Noodles and Company was able to target both adults and children with their menu. And so it really brought in a lot of like middle-aged families. I think he identified 2 age groups. So you had kind of the college student, the young working professional, and then more like the, I guess, 30 to 40-year-old. And so this is a group that's really out and about and active and could bring in a lot of revenue for the company.
Yeah, I agree with what both of y'all have said. It's so true, those points that you've touched on. Also, I think just the uniqueness of the food, having a restaurant that's different than, your regular Wendy's or your McDonald's, but making it a cheap, healthy choice for people. I think the people found it very attractive and they liked it a lot. So that made them stick out a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with all of those points. I essentially said that it's unique and it also kind of fits into an existing segment of it, or it kind of blends the 2 segments of fast food and then like normal casual dining to make that fast casual segment. And so I thought that was really cool that it had that unique idea. So then what caused the company's early struggles and why do you think so? There were a few things that I kind of identified, not major things, but just some things that I think maybe slowed down the development of the company. And one of the first things I thought was that, I mean, he had this concept, he had the idea in place and knew what he wanted to do with it. But he was kind of worried about going all in at first. And so he was balancing 2 jobs, basically. So he took this other job and then trying to build this thing. And so I think that kind of slowed down the process a little bit, where maybe he could have kind of just taken the risk a little bit more and gone all in and put in all of his efforts into building Noodles and Company, and maybe they could have seen a little bit faster growth that way. But what about y'all? Did y'all see any other thoughts? I have a couple more, but I didn't want to take them if y'all had some other thoughts.
Yeah, there were 2 that really stuck out to me at the beginning. Was one, the quality of food that they did sell. At the beginning, it seemed like they just met up in a kitchen and threw some recipes together and said, here you go. I think if they would have spent more time and met with like professional cooks and chefs and done their research, gone to different restaurants like they did later on, I think they would have been a lot better off. That way they would have a lot more excellent tasting food dishes to really hype up the energy of people coming and buying stuff there. Along with that, also having 2 different stores in 2 different locations. They were pretty far away from each other. I think that could have caused some struggles as well. Versus like having 2 stores in Denver. I think having it so far away and traveling back and forth and managing one here and one there, I think it caused a little bit of stress that couldn't have been there if they would have done it otherwise.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. in the case it mentions that he even admits that the food wasn't great, the operations needed work. They just, like, he admitted it was not good at first. Like, and then he talked about how they lost like $18,000 the first month, and then the next 2 months, $12,000, and they didn't even realize how poorly they were doing and how much they were losing until like the fourth month. So they didn't even account, holy cow, we're losing all this money, until later on. And that's when they realized, oh man, we've got to do something to help. So I think just kind of being a little bit more over it and being aware of it would have been important at first to help them not struggle quite as much as they did. But then they learned that clearly because they're doing really well now.
I thought it was interesting that Kennedy so readily agreed to open up a second restaurant in Madison, Wisconsin. I think it was within a few months of opening up the first restaurant. They didn't know how they were doing. And I guess he just trusted the second guy to hire the right people to do the right thing. And so they could have taken a lot more time to do market research, to figure out what consumers were looking for, as well as, you know, what were going to be before they opened.
Thank you. Were you finished, Nathan? Sorry, it cut out, and so I wasn't sure if you were still talking.
No, go right ahead.
Perfect. I just was making sure. Yeah, those were some of my other points as well. The fact that, one, they didn't know that they were operating at a loss, like that significant a loss. I thought that's crazy to not realize that you're losing tens of thousands of dollars a month after those first 3 months. And then also the opening of that second store being over 1,000 miles away. I just thought they should have done some more market research, tried to figure out what's going on, and figured out how that they could have been operating in positive, or at least not losing as much as they were. So then they've got this opportunity to expand. They've got some growth plans and opportunities that they want to try and move forward with. So what role should franchising play in their growth plan?
I think they should use at least, of all the new locations that they're going to open up, 50% of them should be franchises, if not more. It looks like a very viable option. Of course, they're looking to have 300 restaurants open and running by 2006, which is quite a few. And if they want to be first to the market, then they're going to have to utilize an option that can help them to expand rapidly. And from the document that we were asked to read about franchising, it sounds like franchising is the best way to enter new markets and to open up new restaurants as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, I agree with what Nate says. Franchising will definitely play a big, significant role in helping them reach that 300 that they wanted to reach. You look at other companies, a lot of restaurants similar to Noodles and Company, they have a franchise. And creating this franchise, it'll help them to grow a lot quicker and be able to reach their capital amount that they need in order to grow that much. So franchising will just be a good option for them to reach their goals. And it doesn't seem like Kennedy's that big into ownership. I think it said in there that he only owned 21%. So creating these franchises won't be a huge deal for him. But I think it'll be an awesome way to get the company growing and get to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I agree with what you guys have all said, just kind of how it really will help grow. Because I think that would be nice to have, like, he wouldn't have to be over every single one, watching every single one, because he can be like, hey, you're in charge of these locations, you're in charge of this. So he wouldn't be quite as busy as he would if he tried to be in charge of all them all. Like you said, Clayson, he already isn't over all of them, so it doesn't seem like that will be too hard for him to accept that franchising will help, and it's common in this kind of restaurant. So I think that would be great to help it keep growing and help it expand further quicker.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'm right there on board with you, and kind of leading into the next question of the specific advantages and disadvantages of the franchising model. I think, because I agree, I think they should franchise at least 50% of their future stores. Some of the disadvantages I feel like, though, that come along with that, they're a little bit worried about losing some control, because because they want to maintain the same, like the sameness no matter where you go, right? And so they can develop this plan so that each store opens and looks the same, feels the same, has the same environment, but ultimately it ends up being the owner of that franchise kind of gets final say about what kind of goes on in there, or at least they may not be as strict as the stores that they do have control over. So that's really the only like disadvantage that I could think of to the franchising, because they're going to get some cash flow, because it's going to cost, like if somebody wants to franchise, they're going to have to pay Noodles and Company to be able to do that. And so I think that overall the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, but I'm interested to see if y'all had any other disadvantages that you could think of to the franchising option.
Yeah, I'd say that's the biggest one, is that you're going to lose some of the culture and the values that Kennedy and his team have worked so hard to develop. However, reading through the case, it sounds like they've already got a really good business model that they've been using for these company-owned restaurants. Of course, they place a lot of emphasis on hiring the right people. They'll look for these cultural heroes in the community to hire as general managers. They'll give them these psychological tests to make sure that they're ready to make changes and adapt and different things. In addition, then they have these handbooks for the employees, and they quiz them on what they learn. They have these mystery dinners run by independent firms to come in and assess restaurant performance. And so I feel like while that is more of an issue with a franchise than the company-owned restaurant, they've made steps towards mitigating those sorts of problems by allowing themselves to keep an eye on the restaurants by hiring the right people.
I think that they're really prepared for that, like you said, Nathan, just that they are quizzing and they're making sure that everybody's kind of following the same things. I couldn't really think of too many disadvantages other than what you guys said, but just kind of the idea of if they open up a franchise in a different location that maybe wasn't as popular as some locations, that could be hard just because other ones are popular. So trying to figure out how to make it more popular in the new locations. But other than that, I feel like it can be really good since it can reach so many different people and just keep growing if they keep making sure and having quality employees and people over it.
One thing they'd have to look at when franchising, it talks about on page 15 in the second paragraph. It mentions how they need to bring in some new people to help operate this franchising section to get it going and getting pushing forward. Last sentence will call for a greater monitoring of everything from our trademarks and logos to our performance management systems and operations. So that's another district to kind of boot up their operations and their management systems and their logos and stuff. But that's not too extremely hard. I'm sure they'd have to do that anyways. But that's just another thing to look at when they are about to pursue this franchising.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. I hadn't really considered that, but obviously the franchising is not just as simple as we might think it is to say just saying the word. So there's a lot that goes into it. That's pretty much it for the discussion. Did y'all have any other thoughts or any concerns about the case that y'all wanted to bring up or anything?
One thing I was going to say, just looking at the other options, of course, in addition to franchise versus company owned, you also have like an IPO or a strategic partnership. And what makes an IPO attractive is you have much greater visibility. However, it's not just about what the management thinks, but also what the current investors think. And it's interesting looking at how Kennedy has acquired the funding for Noodles and Company, because he hasn't used any venture capitalist firms, any angel investors. Everybody that's helped to fund Noodles and Company has just been family, friends, and associates. And so I find that very interesting. It means that it's a great business idea. And so I don't think they're necessarily hurting for money. And so that kind of rules that out. And then the case didn't have a lot of good to say about like a strategic partnership, because that would really be running the risk of losing your company culture and your values. But I guess those are some other options. They do have merit, but to me, it seems pretty obvious that a franchise is going to be the best option.
Well, I was looking at the case. I was trying to figure out how to do some math, but I couldn't come up with really anything. I was wondering if you guys had any suggestions at all of calculations you did to help you narrow down your decision of what you wanted to do.
I don't know if this was with regards to the final decision, but I created a table of each year and how much funding they were able to acquire and what the share price was if it was through selling company equity. And then calculated how many shares were created from each round of fundraising, and then created a couple graphs with that. But that didn't necessarily influence what I thought about whether or not they should franchise 50% of the new restaurants. But that's what I did.
Okay.
Yeah, and I didn't have anything other than just, I mean, some previous knowledge about franchising, the franchising document that we read, and then what it talked about in the case. And it just kind of, it was persuasive reading, I feel like. So it felt like that was what they were leading towards.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So any other thoughts or anything? I know that was kind of a quick discussion, but I like them that way. So.
No, it's good that way.
Sweet. The case was long to read, though. I think it was like 15 pages.
I know.
It's long.
It's like, wow.
Yeah,
Usually
and then,
like 10.
yeah, and then you add in that second document, so that's
Yes.
there's a lot.
A lot of reading.
But awesome. Well, we've got another case this week. We'll probably plan on meeting on Friday. Does that work for everybody?
Yeah, and my turn to start it, right? I'm trying to remember.
Sounds
yeah, I
good.
think so.
I can't
Yeah, I
remember,
think
but
So I can send out the link and get it going.
perfect.
Question for you guys. What are your schedules on Friday? We're probably going to be driving down to Utah from like 2 to like 4 or 5. Any chance we could have it earlier or a little bit later? If not, I think we can make it work. I'm just worried about losing connection on the ride down.
I can do it earlier, but I can't do it later. I don't
Okay.
know about everybody else.
I can do it anytime except between like 11 and 12:30. I have a class during that time. So anytime earlier than that or anytime after that, I'm good.
And I can do it first thing in the morning if that's what y'all want to do. That works for me.
That works for me too.
Okay, so we're thinking like first thing in the morning, like 8 o'clock, or
Whatever y'all
Or
think.
like 10 o'clock. I'm fine with either one.
Yeah, I'm good.
okay.
Or we could do 6. If you want to do 6.
We can, well,
I think you can do it alone then.
Yeah, everyone's in their PJs, waking up, eating their oatmeal.
Green hair.
yeah, I could probably do. I get out of class Friday at 10, so I could probably do like 10:15. Would that work?
Yeah.
You guys?
That works
I
for
can
me.
do that.
That's perfect.
Cool,
That
just
actually
knock
looks
it
better
out.
for me this Friday, so that's good.
Okay. Awesome.
Perfect. So I'll send
Put it
out
on
the
that.
start it then. I'll make sure to write it down so I remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Sounds good. Well, I'll plan on seeing you all on Friday.
Okay. We'll see you there. Thanks again.
Have a good one.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.